The timeline has changed. Here are my updated 2025 predictions, specifically the spring-summer psychic forecast, psychic predictions, including a Trump shocker, crazy weather, crazy inventions, and a message for humanity that I received when I was preparing my notes that I'm going to share at the end for the rest of this decade. And it was a shocker also. So we've got a lot to talk about. I've got everything in my notes. But also keep in mind that nothing is written in stone and everything that happens is a product of consciousness and intention. So if we are able to raise our consciousness individually, that feeds the collective to help to mitigate some of the more challenging predictions while enhancing or creating some of the more positive ones. So let's keep our vibes high, know that we have help through Spirit, God, and Source, our guides, the extraterrestrials, and who's ever helping humanity at this time. So firstly, a financial reset is in effect. And we predicted that would happen starting this February, back last summer, before Trump was elected, before tariffs. Emphasize the word reset, not a crash, so it's going to keep going up and down, I believe. It's going to continue to be volatile as new news and new information comes out, as you would expect. Tariffs will reset the global economy but not crash it. So that's what I believe also. And there may have been some intention that Trump went into this with the intention to reset the economy. I mean, there's conjecture whether there's some inside trading or corruption around that, but it's just conjecture right now. And I want to stick to the facts and not get too political in this video. But what shapes the future is partly politics. We have to talk about it at least somewhat, right? So anyway, Trump takes a lot of heat, possible pushback, but that's not the most shocking news about him. I'll have that later on. Stimulus packages likely to be proposed by the end of the spring, so we'll see, as well as an IRS reset or movement to eliminate the IRS. That was one of the campaign promises, right? So we'll see some level of recession likely, but I do feel like by the autumn, if not the winter, but soon after that, there'll be a recovery. And in the meantime, again, lots of up and down, lots of volatility. So keep that in mind if you are investing in the markets. So anyway, moving on to weather. I mean, there's more to talk about the economy, but in any event, moving on to the weather, severe weather, hurricanes in record numbers probable this season, crazy weather across the globe, fires, record numbers of fires, a continuation of record numbers of earthquakes. Every day there seems to be many across the world going on. We just had one recently in LA or south of LA, which I predicted for the month of April that there'd be an earthquake in Southern California. Let's hope this was it, because this was a 5.2. It could have been so much worse. I'm hoping and praying that that's all that I was picking up on and there'll be no more. But in any event, getting back to my notes, earthquakes, earth resets, earth is balancing karma, the earth balances. So things that are happening on the earth, it's balancing human activity, all that kind of stuff. So the earth resets, and a lot of it's energetic because there's higher frequencies that are perpetuating a global awakening, but they're releasing energy and karma stored in the earth and imbalances created by human activity. So that's part of the reason that the weather's so crazy, and it's likely to continue to ramp up in that direction. The response to higher frequencies. So we see big spikes in spirituality, more people awakening this spring and summer than ever, and that's going to figure and that's going to play into what's going to happen in the world in a good way. So, excuse me, unedited, uncut. So amongst other things that we'll hear about, amazing inventions, amazing. And I was seeing something on the order of an OBD reader for humans, or in other words, some device, I'm sure AI generated, that's going to be able to diagnose a lot of ailments and a lot of diseases that happen with humans, before even going to the doctor. So that would be interesting. Now, we know we live in a system where the corporations feed the governments that feed the ruling party and everything. So we'll see exactly what happens in terms of things like the pharmaceutical, how that benefits that, and technology or whatever. But I believe these are already available, but I think we're going to, I don't think they'll be rolled out by the end of the summer, but I think we'll at least hear about that. Also, frequency medicines, new inventions, new cancer vaccines that involve mRNA vaccinations and the AI technology. We're likely to see more testing or more rollouts as the year goes on. Explosion in AI development and use we're likely to see. Project Stargate going into effect. That involves things like smart cities, like drone surveillance and technology, AI technology, mRNA vaccines for cancer, and a whole host of other things in building an AI global network, basically. And with that, we see increased EMF outputs, changes in the cellular networks that are resembling an inverted flower of life, which is a vibrational sinkhole, as it were, from what, at least from the perspective that I'm seeing. In other words, that it creates sort of a negative vibration that promotes illness, disease, and things like frustration and challenges that we're seeing. So we have to learn how to balance that and combat that. And the best way that I know of is increasing the resonance of the heart, our largest electromagnetic generator in the body. And what that does, it creates a stronger field that resists these EMFs, also going out into nature. In other words, it's not doom and gloom, it's part of technology, but we should be aware of what we can do to protect ourselves as these things are happening. So spying and monitoring systems are likely to increase. The transhuman agenda is likely to get more known, and experimentations likely to pick up with that. Development of social credit scores, we're likely to hear that or some semblance of that again. And the metaverse or some alternate internet that would involve more of the AI technology and virtual reality and things of that nature that could be leading to things like holographic things like in Star Trek, the holodecks, where we can enact things in our lives and create scenarios, fantasies, things of that nature. But it's amazing technology that can be used or misused. So we have to understand that the power structure in the world is still that of control over others, power over others, controlling the money, corporations and things of that nature. So we have to be mindful of that, but there's huge potential for a lot of growth and gains in human evolution with technology also. So we're seeing more UFO sightings, more sky anomalies, more disclosure, stuff like that. Possible shutdowns or traffic delays, air traffic delays specifically. I was seeing shutdowns of the airports, things not moving, and possible lockdowns in some areas, possible scattered implementation of martial law, maybe one or two in the U.S., but more abroad, I want to say, as demonstrations increase, as struggles against governments and the status quo increase. It's all part of the awakening. The evolution sometimes brings on revolution in order to create change of agendas and systems of government and rule that aren't fair for the people. So a lot of that's increasing. Now, I'm also seeing increased demonstration, strife, revolutionary activity around the world. Eastern Europe, Africa, other areas, Canada also, Europe, everywhere subject to that. Anyway, health concerns around world leaders. Look at Putin. I got a vision of him being forced to step down because of health around now or a little bit later on. So far, so good, depending on your perspective of Putin, or so far, so bad. But we don't wish any ill or harm on anybody, no matter what. God's spirit or source will take care of the karma. The idea is for us to ascend and grow and to do the best that we can with our lives and what we have control over. So, Putin, Trump, and I'll get to that in a second. Who else? King Charles. So I think we may see a wave of that around the world of leaders or important figures stepping down, largely due to health, some of it due to political strife. and there may be like more things about hostages or people being forced down, even executions and stuff like that. The world's resetting. We know that. So there's now also with the RFK stuff, because I didn't talk a lot about that in my last forecast. Okay, firstly, we understand that vaccines save lives, right? There's no denying that. But that said, they can also feed the corrupt economy by overuse or using them inappropriately or not disclosing some of the side effects that should be disclosed before any medication gets approved for public use. So in my view, and you may have different views, RFK and others are exposing that. They're not really, to me anyway, saying not to take vaccines or that Western medicine is trash or anything like that. It's like, let's stop the corruption, let's stop the overuse so that these medicines, including vaccines, can be used in the best possible way for the best possible results with the least suffering or harm to human beings, right? So we may see changes in the vaccine programs, childhood schedules to follow, and stuff like that. We're already seeing chemtrails coming under fire, so we may see more news about some of the agendas behind the HARP generators, behind geoengineering, chemtrailing, and alleged bioweapon testing, disguised as pandemics, can come under greater exposures and things of that nature, and what was done in response to it, what was disclosed versus what wasn't disclosed but that's coming out. So a lot of corruption is still going to continue to get exposed. And we've been telling you here all along not to expect a miracle all at once. This is a process that's still going to be coming out over the course of many years, basically. But exposure, pharmaceutical agendas, more insight into activities around figures like Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, and others come to light when it comes to things around technology, pandemics, the AIDS epidemic or pandemic, I think would be more apt, right, of a description, stuff like that. So I'm seeing more airstrikes, more wars in the Middle East, tense truce with Russia and Ukraine or ceasefires likely around June, July, or August for what I'm being shown also. So still a lot of fighting though around Eastern Europe and escalation of aggressions around the Middle East and other parts of the world. We're likely to see that, we might even see a proposal for the draft here in the U.S. or other countries, not necessarily going into effect, but by the summer, as more troops are called in for service, we'll just say. So terrorist activity, watch out around the Statue of Liberty, New York Harbor, as I've been saying in a lot of my live streams lately, but all other areas are subject to that type of activity. What else? More airstrikes, other coastal regions at play. So a lot of escalation, a lot of drawing lines in the sand. Unfortunately, the war effort and the agenda seems to be following on course, but as we raise our consciousness, that could change, and maybe it is changing already. Now, it's also being shown earthquake activity in Southern California for April. Let's hope again the 5.2 was it, and there's no others. Also, watch out for the area around Yellowstone, the Pacific Northwest for possible earthquake, volcanic activity. So that area is on the hot spot. Record tsunami possible. Watch out Japan, Southeast Asia, spring into summer, and a lot of other stuff. In general, seismic activity is going to remain very, very high. I'm drinking more water. There's something I wanted to say about the Middle East that I can't remember, but in any event, there could be some surprise attacks and things like that. So, again, well, anyway, let's get back to Donald Trump, right? So I had a vision of Trump in a hospital, and that's part of what encouraged me to do this update. He wasn't dead or anything, but he was motionless and on something, I want to say. and in critical condition. Now, I've had prior visions of him leaving office around July. Some of you know that already. My original prediction before he was even elected was him to get elected, and I have this written in my notes somewhere, but elected and remaining about 2.5 years and then stepping down for whatever reason. So timelines are always fluid, they're always changing, but there's still a chance that something may happen around July and August. And I favor something more with his health, but again, there's a lot of pushback from Republicans and Democrats. There are legal issues. The way I see it, as long as the globalists believe that he's serving their agenda, that he'll stay in office. If that changes, there may be other things that surface that are currently buried around the elections, around other things, basically. And again, it's all alleged until it's proven. I'm nonpartisan. I'm not speaking from a perspective of what I personally, I mean, we all have personal opinions, but this is all coming through from spirit. This is all psychic, not my personal wishes or anything. I do not wish any harm on Donald Trump. I see potential benefits, but I also see potential problems with this, and I'll just leave it at that for now. But in any event, I thought he might get stepped down due to pushback. I thought maybe due to an assassination attempt. Now, it's come to light in the month of April when I predicted another assassination attempt, although it was a foiled plot, apparently, that started at the end of July when this young man apparently killed his parents. So anyway, you're probably starting to see that in the news. So maybe that was the assassination attempt I was picking up on, and all's clear from here. Again, love him or hate him, you know, a couple things. He's here to expose the corruption. That may not be his conscious agenda, but we've been saying that all along, and we don't wish any harm on anyone. Yeah, period. So anyway, if he's still in office come September, my original prediction will likely happen that he'll stay in for about 2.5 years. So before a lot of this, I did say, and a lot of you know this, that I did predict he'd be elected. I did predict he'd be inaugurated on time. I did predict that as soon as he got into office, we were going to see a whole new Donald Trump, and that he was going to take very swift and shocking action, and all that's happened. So I have every reason to believe that my future predictions are also valid. And, you know, as we change and the energy changes, it'll modify some of the predictions also. Nothing's written in stone, timelines are fluid. But what else? So, love him or hate him, his action will expose a lot of mixed deeds, a lot of corruption that needs to be exposed. And from there, we can all have our own opinions. That's fine. But let's not be programmed. Let's not let the powers that be force us to, I shouldn't say force it to have a prediction, but I'll put it this way. If you're seeing something from the other side and it either makes you angry, scared, or whatever, if it's affecting your emotions, then it's a program, because that's what programming does. It hijacks the emotions, and our emotions drive everything in our behavior. So it's fine to have an opinion and to stand up for your opinions and to demonstrate. But if you feel a reaction to the other side, step back, step out of that program, and then your actions are going to be much more inspired as a result of that. So anyway, many of his executive orders and proposals seem to support the globalist agendas, but more will be revealed. So that's all I have to say about that and everything. Now, I did get a message, and by the way, if you're enjoying this video, please like, comment your views if you're nice about it. If you disagree, we're allowed to agree to disagree around here. We're a community. We're here to share. We're here to grow together and support each other. And we're not always going to agree on every little point. So feel free to comment. If you like this content, subscribe, and more of it will show up on your home feed. And here's the message. So I was preparing my notes, and the master teachers, the group that I channeled, came through, gave me this really important message that I got through automatic writing, which is literally in scribble. So I'm going to do my best to read this. So the message is, spiritual people of the world will start to create community, go more off-grid, and practice more sustainability and continue to evolve that way. I was starting to write that in my notes as one of the predictions, that we're going to see more people starting to organize, and we may start to do that here on the Medium channel, to plan, like, if everything follows the way it's going and we come into a really kind of an autocratic, oligarchy type of society where rights are taken away and we're almost feeling obligated or forced to join in that agenda, a lot of people are going to be starting kind of an alternative society. So a lot of people go off-grid or become more sustainable and create more spiritual networks that way. So I'm to say we're going to see more of that, I believe, show up. But then the messages started to come through. So I mean, showing up around, you know, this spring and summer, more movement towards that, anyways. So anyway, awakened ones shall flourish as they watch the mainstream world crash and burn, as the timelines currently in place show they. See, again, it's all in scribble. Show that they shall build. They meaning the globalists shall build their great computers, but they will crash in the 2028-2029 timeline and have to rebuild and rethink their technocratic global takeover. And here is the timeline. Here's the time humanity has the opportunity to undergo global awakening, as from death comes new life, new understanding, and a new society can be born. The light has already won, but in the dense physical, change has only just begun. Don't expect one man, meaning Donald Trump, I assume, to dare to hand the whole system, for it is a process. This president can only cause a shaking, but he can open the path to a future global awakening. Remember, or his activities can anyway, but remember, the future is now. Awaken now. Feel the positivity into the collective. That is the best thing that you can do to know for humanity right now. Awaken, inspired action will follow from there. Rather than action being born from fear, anger, and frustration as your programming tempts you to do, that type of action only feeds the dark agendas in the end, for that is where it is born. Awaken to spirit. You are spirit. Everything is spirit, energy, flow. But don't take our word for it. Awaken yourself. Feel the glory of spirit, source, and God yourself. That's where your inspired actions on your world will save your world from the lower forces, and humanity will ascend to its golden age. We are here to guide and assist you. Your only job is to awaken. And that is what I have. So over here I have the April psychic forecast for you, but the timelines have changed, and a lot of what I'm seeing in April is really going to be happening between now and July or August. So that is over here. Thank you. And let's stay strong, let's stay positive, raise our vibrations, and we're going to get through this and we're going to thrive. I love you. Thanks for being part of this community.